How I lower this? Again, I don't want to break nothing, man, because I don't want to be responsible, liable for nothing.
I mean, you did sign the waiver when you first came in. Okay. I've only done this once.
Okay.
But I think if you unscrew this thing.
That might be too much work, man. I ain't trying to break nothing.
Oh, I'm tripping. You can just.
That works.
Yep.
That'll do it.
Perfect.
Testing 1 2.
Yes, sir.
Testing 1 2.
Mic check. Mic check.
Hey.
Yes, sir. All right. YouTube told me to do that.
Okay.
To line up sync the audio and video.
Yeah. Clap.
Huh. Somehow it works.
Oh, look at you.
All the tricks.
Yeah.
All the tricks.
I'm with it. I'm for it.
All right. Episode number 1.
Boom.
The Grounded Theory Podcast. Grounded Theory Podcast. Got my guy Javier Duren in here. He's lived a pretty cool life, man. Pretty cool life. He has some experiences that a lot of people listening also would like to have those experiences. An inspiration, a mentor to the next generation, man. Hav, thanks for being here.
Nah, man. Pleasure's all mine. I appreciate you. First and foremost, appreciate you for having me on for episode number 1. Number 1. Like you got Hive on for number 1. So that's a whole bunch of pressure, man. I hope I don't make you rethink this whole, I don't know if this podcasting thing gonna work, man. My guest sucked. But no, man, appreciate you. Also, man, the water here is phenomenal, bro.
Shout out
phenomenal.
To the Brita water.
Oh my God, phenomenal. So no, I appreciate you, man. Happy to chop it up with you.
Yeah, man. Had to get him on here for episode number 1. Started off right. So for those listening that may not know who you are, let me get your background, man. Who you are, what you do. Let me hear your story.
Yeah, man. Background. Where do I start? So for those of you who do not know who I am, my name is Javier Duren, born and raised in St. Louis. St. Louis kid through and through. Hooper. Grew up playing ball. I'm a learner by trade. Most important thing, I'm a man of God, huge man of faith. It's kind of been driven me, or it's been my, my driving force since I was young, right? It's, how I live my life and how I perceive my life. My husband, I'm a man in many hats. And so, that's probably the best way to describe who I am. Just a guy with many hats, a guy who has a heart for people, loves building relationships, and loves using my gift to better others.
So you mentioned being a learner.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a man of many hats.
Yeah.
Oakville High School.
Man.
And then from there,
yeah,
we went off to Yale, man. Went off to Yale. You don't just wake up and find yourself at Yale. You got to put in some time. You got to put in some hours.
Yeah.
Was this the life lessons that you've learned from hoops, discipline, time commitment, dedicating yourself, that you just applied to the classroom? Was it like your family really values education, and so from day one you understood that this is what it is?
Yeah.
Is it a combination?
Yeah.
What is it?
I love this, man. Man, I'm just diving right into it, boy. Right into the fire. Man, I would like to, I wish it was that deep. But honestly, man, my mom forced me to go to Yale. Like my mom was like, and I love telling a story because in hindsight, I think about how, I was a 16-year-old kid and I was at a point where I knew I was going to have some scholarship offers, and Yale was kind of the one that showed the most interest at first. And, me, I wanted to see, hey, like what's everything I got in my hand before I make a decision. And so I remember it was my junior to senior summer, and I went to the Yale basketball camp, played well there, played so well. The coach, shout out to Coach Jones, who's still there, longest tenure coach in the Ivy League. He said, hey, Javi, I want you to commit to Yale. So again, this is June. I knew in July that I would have probably some more scholarship offers, right? It was at a period of time where college coaches could come and see you in July. And so I wanted to wait until then. And so I got home that night and I had a conversation with Mom. So Mom was like, hey, how was the camp? And I said, Mom, the camp was great. You know, the coach, it seemed like a really good environment. I enjoyed the coaching staff. The campus was great. And he wants me to commit. He wants me to play basketball for Yale. And her response was, great. You're going. like you're going. I was like, well, Mom, you know, I told him that I'll potentially have some more scholarship offers for, you know, next month. And, you know, I'll get back with him, right? I'll get back with him. 17-year-old kid. I'll get back to the coach at Yale, right? And I mean, she looked at me like I was crazy. She said, no, call that man back. Tell him you'll be there whenever you need him to be. This man said he can get you to Yale. We going to Yale. All right. Ended up being one of the best decisions I ever made in my life.
Were you hesitant at first?
To make the decision to go to Yale? Mm-hmm. Man, was I hesitant?
Because I'm thinking you get that offer, especially like you said, 17-year-old kid.
Yeah.
It's easy to think, all right, well, I got Yale. What about this? What about this? What about this? And kind of looking up at the mountain.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
What's possible.
Yeah.
And especially because July's the live period.
Yeah. July was a live period.
Maybe we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But then Mom said, got to go.
Mm-hmm. In that regards, man, there was no hesitancy. You know, as she, and kudos to her, like she had the conversation with me about the benefits of going to Yale. It wasn't just that, nah, you going to do what I say. Like, nah, you 16, you 17 years old. Like, let's talk about this and talk about what this could mean, not only for the next few years, but after you graduate. And so as I think about who I was at that age, I was always one. I did cherish basketball, also cherished the classroom. I did well in class. I love school. And so Yale just was the best of both of those worlds. And so from that lens, it made sense. And again, just the connections that I had, not only with the coaching staffs, with some of the players that I met up there. Cause some of them East Coast cats, man, I was like, sheesh, like y'all are really good. And so, yeah, in that respect, man, it wasn't no hesitancy. And I was actually excited. And for me, it was even better because heading into my senior year, I knew where I was going. Right. So all throughout the July live period, as I started school that last year, like I knew where I was going. And so that took the pressure off where I could just relax and just enjoy that last year.
I've heard a lot of people talk about being in a similar position where going into their senior year, they know where they're going to college. Mm-hmm. And they feel like this weight has just been lifted off their back. And so then their performance ends up just skyrocketing because they're not worried. Because it's a difficult balance being in high school, deciding where to go to college, or that whole process, because coaches preach, got it, like winning is number one, which in my opinion is true. At the same time, you got to balance, like, I mean, you got to put some numbers up. Mm-hmm. You got to have some film to be looked at by college coaches. Yeah. And so it's this kind of weird balancing those two agendas, which are both very important. Mm-hmm. So did you feel like a weight was lifted and you could just go out there and do your thing? Yeah, definitely. For sure. You know, I go back to that whole camp experience. Mind you, this is something that I found out later. Like, as I was in the camp, my dad was hitting up the coaching staff, was like, hey, you want him, you got him. You want him, you got him. So, like, my mom and dad were tag teaming behind my back, right? But for good reason, right? Because you think about the brand of Yale and having that on your resume, right? Not just from a career standpoint, a corporate standpoint, but just the fact that that brand is now a part of your brand, just the doors that it opens, the credibility that it gives you. And so for them to be able to see that vision, even when I couldn't, right? Again, man, I'm out there hooping. I'm like, yeah, this is great. This probably ain't gonna be my only D1 offer. I see what. Let's talk about it after July, right? But nah, man, like I said, it ended up being one of the best decisions I've ever made, and I'm still reaping the benefits of that decision
almost a decade out.
I think that's interesting because a lot of times people say that like where your degree from doesn't matter as much.
Mm-hmm.
It's more so about the degree. I feel like Ivy League schools are kind of the exception. Like if you have a degree from Yale, Harvard, any of those schools, it's like, all right, bro, like you're that guy.
Let's be real.
You're on like, another level.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Right there. It's an Ivy League standard that's widely accepted by everybody. Separates you, right? Whether you want it to or not. And so with that separation, you can either embrace it or you can either succumb to it, right? Because with that brand, it comes a lot of pressure, right? All right, great that you went to Yale. That's awesome. Or did you really go to Yale? I mean, you don't seem like you went to Yale. Right?
More pressure.
Yeah, it could be more pressure. And so it's all about how you just how you embrace it, man. For sure.
It's probably hard to compare because Yale is your only college experience.
Mm-hmm.
But what would you say makes an Ivy League an Ivy League? Is it like the amount of work? Is it the content? What is it?
Yeah. So obviously, I think the default answer is the work. Honestly, my opinion would be the people. So like when you go to an Ivy League school, like you're not just going to class with like regular people. Right? Like you ain't just going to class with like Joe Blow. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like these are some prestigious individuals who are going to go on to do earth-shattering things in the world. Like you think about U.S. presidents, right? Yale University, right? Any sort of prestigious, title or position, right? There's some sort of Yale lineage, right? And so for me, I think that was the biggest eye-opening thing was just the people that I went to school with, the individuals that I met, right? Folk bank accounts way larger than mine, but we both in this econ 101 class. Yeah.
Do you think you need a college degree to be successful?
Nah, man. I think this is how old I am, man. This generation. I think what you're seeing now is that the road to success has a lot of different paths. I think there was once this big push of, in order to be successful, you got to go to college. Man, why go to college and get all this student debt? And I end up, in the worst place off, right? But no, I think the road to success has many different lanes. I think the key is realizing, one, what that lane is specifically for you. And then two, having the confidence to walk it, right? One, what does success look like for me? I already know I ain't a good test taker. It's hard for me to study in class. You know what? College ain't going to be for me. Okay. And then after that, it's what is it that's going to make me successful in walking into it? Because you still deal with those pressures of, wait, you go to trade school? You should go to college, right? But if I feel like trade school is going to make me more successful, then I got to be confident in that. I got to stand in that, right? I got to be willing to go 10 toes down. Yeah, and believe it.
That's facts.
Yeah.
I think it's tough because, you're asking a 17, 18, I guess maybe 19-year-old senior in high school to make that type of decision.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. And what makes it tough is the lack of individuals around that particular person that can't offer sound advice, right? That can't offer sound, practical advice. So in an instance where a kid may not be best for him to go to college, may actually be beneficial for him not to go. But yet the people in his camp are trying to push him, right, to college and trying to, right, fulfilling their dream or fulfilling or whatever kind of vision that they have for that kid's life. I think that's even more detrimental. Right.
Did your parents go to college?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, both of them did.
I think it's tough too balancing the basketball with that, because as a regular high school student, you're doing your ACT and applying for schools and all of this, but then also like what hoopers have on top of that to worry about.
Talk about it.
Is, okay, well, what schools want me
Yeah.
to be there,
Yeah.
to provide my services.
Yeah.
Like, so you have to weigh that out. And then like, okay, academically, I'm good enough to go to this level, but then only this level of basketball is recruiting me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of this tough thing to navigate. Did you find that to be true for you? Or was it always like, because here's my question is like, okay, so to be going to Yale, I'm gonna guess you had like a 4.0 something.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Okay.
Something up there.
So you had to work your ass off to get that. So you were probably always academically projected to go to one of those like top schools.
Mm-hmm.
Was there ever a time where athletically you would say your trajectory was headed below, like just at a different level than that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I thought about college, I never thought of it from an academic standpoint until Yale entered the picture.
Okay.
Because again, playing AAU growing up, especially on the high school circuit, right? Started out with St. Louis Eagles, which is now Bradley Bill Elite.
Shout out to the St. Louis Eagles.
Shout out, yeah. And in my 17th year, I was with Team Ramey.
Okay.
Right? Shout out to them as well. And so again, when you're in that environment, it's, hey man, we trying to get D1 scholarships to hoop, right? So whoever gonna give me a D1 scholarship to hoop, that's who's gonna be in the bucket, right? That's who's gonna be in the list, all right? And so when Yale entered the picture, it was great for me because again, it allowed me to pursue two things that I loved, right? Basketball and academics, right? And I think as you going back to that mindset of, just trying to get a D1 scholarship to hoop, I do think that you need to factor in like what does that look like academically as well, right? Because in all honesty, that ball is gonna stop bouncing one day, right? Like you ain't gonna be able to bounce the ball. Father Time is undefeated, right? And so I think the more that you can kind of set yourself up to where you know what that looks like after the ball stops bouncing, I think the better off you can be.
Drew Hanlon was on the podcast talking about how his mindset for college was finding a school that would not only benefit him for the next 4 years, but the next 40 years. I think that's important.
That's a bar.
That is a bar.
That's a bar, man.
Again, I think it's tough being at that age. I was the same way.
Yeah.
Factoring like 40 years from now, factoring that into your decision, because at that point in our lives, we don't really know too much. We just want to hoop.
Yeah.
And I think to your point about AAU and the D1 offers, I think that's a trap. May not be the best word, but something along those lines of like, because bro, when I was in high school, I thought Division III basketball was like YMCA hoop level.
Yeah.
But then I got there and it was like, okay, these guys can hoop.
Oh, they hooping.
They can hoop.
For sure.
Yeah. And so, and I was the same way, so I can't fault anybody.
Yeah.
It's attractive. A D1 offer is very attractive. Being able to post it on Twitter and it looks really cool.
Yeah.
And you get all the gear and the hype that comes with it. And it's easy to get caught up in that.
Yeah.
And it works out for some people. Yeah, I just think it's a tough thing to balance. It's tough to have that hindsight at that age.
Yeah, and let me say this, right? Caveat. Because I had the privilege of thinking about how a college, a D1 offer could benefit me from 40 years from now. Right? Like, so when I was at that age, like I still had both of my parents in my life. I didn't want for anything. Right? I had the ability to play basketball and to go to school. And so for me, it made sense to have that and adopt that mindset of, hey, what is this next 4 years going to look like and how is it going to set me up for the next 40, right? For somebody else who's just trying to get out, who doesn't have anything but basketball, they don't have the privilege to think about, right? Like, what is my college education? How is it going to set me up for the next 40 years? Man, I'm just trying to make it out my hood. You know what I mean? And so I definitely think that there's individuals like that. And for some people, man, that offer is the only way out. And I feel them.
Honestly, I respect the hell out of those people, man.
Yeah, man.
Honestly, those are some of the best hoopers. Those are the ones with that mentality of every time we step in between these lines,
yes, sir,
we're going to war.
There was always a grind that I never had.
Mm-hmm. Same.
That them dudes had.
Yep.
It was always a level of tenacity, a level of hunger that I was never going to have. That them dudes had. Like, I leave some of these games like, he want it. Yep. You know what I mean? Like, he want it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's when those guys, their third AAU game of a Saturday, they find that gear.
Facts.
They're still picking up full court.
Facts.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
Getting after it.
Yep.
Yeah, man. So let's talk about your hooping experience at Yale.
Yeah, talk to me. Good
competition. The guys that are good in the classroom also are good hooping wise.
Oh yeah, let me tell you this, man. Don't try to sleep on them Ivy League boys. Y'all think we just be in the dorm rooms reading the science books front and back twice a day? Nah, we hoop. And so again, as I talk about the benefits of Yale, one, being able to study at the highest level, but two, being able to play at the highest level, right? On a collegiate level. So we're playing dudes like Bradley Beal at Florida, right? Like we're playing like high caliber teams because we're D1 squad. And so as I think about my career at Yale, yeah, man, it was intense. It was a lot.
And even just day to day balancing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, D1, like, shout out to the NIL deals.
Shout out. Oh,
because I mean, it's a full-time job,
man.
I mean, talk about that. Because you probably had in an off season or whatever the time of the year is, skill session in the morning, then weights, and then practice, and then two other things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, talk about the grind of it.
Yeah. So let me tell you this, man. You know, there's you think about some of these. I ain't gonna throw no names out. These big time schools that are real lax on their collegiate athletes, right? From an academic standpoint, right? Like, you know, schoolwork is a little bit behind, you know, the athletics. Let me tell you something, man. These Ivy League schools, they don't care what sport you play. Your midterm's still on Wednesday. Your midterm's still on Wednesday, Mal.
But I'm averaging 35 and 12.
Your midterm's still on Wednesday, Mal. My senior year, we had a game against Bryant. Played great. I think it was either on a Monday or a Tuesday. End of that game, we pack up and, we ride back to the campus, and it dawned on me that I had an econ midterm the very next day. I got an econ midterm the very next day. Completely forgot about it. But guess what I did? Got back to the dorm room. Yep. Got in them books. Took a little quick nap. Woke up early in the morning. Did a little bit of studying. Went to my econ class. Took the midterm. Right.
And at that time, there wasn't like OTE and all these like other options from college. So it like that probably didn't enter your mind, but there had to have been points where it's like, bro, is this for me? Can I do this? Was it challenging at all? Or because you touched on like you like school.
Yeah.
Was it ever challenging balancing those two?
Oh, of course. Always, man. Especially being at an Ivy League school, you said kind of what separates it. And I said the people. There's always this how do I want to say it? This desire for comparison. Because like, again, these are some pretty impressive people that you're in class with. And so it's very easy to be like, well, dang, man, hey, daddy got this, and hey, mama got this. And you know what I mean? They were in there for vacation on this summer. You know what I mean? And so a lot of people fall prey to comparing themselves to other people.
Like other students?
Yeah, other students, man. Just not feeling good enough.
Yeah.
Right? On top of the academic stressors of it. Because, I mean, it's hard. Right? It's Ivy League school. Mm-hmm. And so there's definitely that component of, like self-worth. Feeling, do I deserve to be there? Right? There was typically when you go to an Ivy League school, so for like athletes, what they usually do or what they try to do is that they try to make you do a postgraduate year. All right. So you do your 4 years at your high school, and before you go to your Ivy League school, they'll say, hey, we got some schools up here. Come do a post-grad year. Spend 1 year at this school, right? Whether it's a boarding school or graduate school, just so you can kind of get a feel for what it would be like at an Ivy League school, right? So it's more of like a transition, more of like a preparation to go to an Ivy League school, right? And so they do that for a couple of reasons. One, to make sure that you're prepared. Two, in case any of the academic personnel at Yale, if they feel that you may not be as qualified for that first year transition, right? And so once I committed to Yale, that was one of the topic of conversations with me, right? That I had with one of the academic personnel at Yale, right? Conversation was great, Javier. We're excited to have you at Yale. I noticed that you come from a big public school, and, you got a really good GPA, but, we just want to make sure, that you're prepared, for the Ivy League school, right? So would you consider doing a postgraduate year and, starting, now you still get your 4 years at Yale, right? But you would just do a postgrad year before you start those 4 years, right? And I'll never forget, man, I called my coach, and coach was like, hey, man, tell that man you're going to think about it. Call him back 2 days later, say you ain't going to take it because I need my point guard next year.
Like that.
Yeah.
Straight like that.
Uh-huh.
So we get done with Yale.
Yeah.
4 years there.
Mm-hmm.
Build a bond with teammates, students, teachers, coaches. It's a family.
Mm-hmm.
At what point in that journey does overseas basketball become an option in your mind? And then what steps did you take to get there?
Yeah, good question, man. And so very, I would say, successful basketball career at Yale. 1,000-point scorer, first team All-Ivy my senior year, honorable mention my junior year, second team All-District. Yale Basketball Hall of Fame. And so I'm really proud of the legacy that I left at Yale, and kind of how the people that have went there after me have kind of built upon it. And so a little bit more detail, my freshman year, we came in 4th place in the Ivy League. Sophomore year, we came in 3rd place. Junior year, we came in 2nd place. Senior year, we came in 1st place. All right. Yeah. And so just that upward trajectory of Yale basketball success during my tenure there, and to see how they've kind of taken that baton and just kind of ran with it. Now Yale's top 2, been top 2, top 3 pretty much since I left. And so again, man, very proud of the legacy that I left. And, you know, as you talk about overseas professional basketball, that was always the goal for me. It was
from high school?
From the age of 13. Okay. I was in 8th grade. Project, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, I want to be a professional basketball player. Right. And, you know, back then, right, like teachers be laughing at you when you say stuff like that, you know, like let's be realistic. You want to be a firefighter or maybe a lawyer or a doctor. Right. I said, no, I want to be a pro basketball player. And so as I'm garnering all this success, of course, senior year comes, and I don't know what that next step looks like to go pro. And so there was a lot of kind of, dang, like, I don't know what this looks like. You know what I mean? And by the end of my senior season, I had a list. I kept track of a list, and that list was about 13 or 15 companies deep of agencies that just reached out to me throughout the year wanting to represent me for a pro career. And so it was at that point where I was like, okay, this is going to be a real thing. All right. You talk about steps to prepare to kind of set me up. One, well, of course, success on the court. I think one of the most underrated things that I did was how I spent my summers. Typically, a lot of people do internships, right, which makes sense, right? Every summer, I spent at Yale on the weight program and just training. So even the summer before I started at Yale, so after I graduated high school, before I started my freshman year, I was on Yale's campus. I was in a weight program. I was getting acquainted with the campus. I was getting acquainted with the courts and working out with the coaches and playing pickup with old heads from the city, right? And so I did that for every single summer.
Nothing but hoops.
Nothing but hoops, man. I had a job. My first few summers, I worked at the Yale golf course. Shout out, one of the best Yale collegiate golf courses in the nation. So that would be from 5 a.m. to 2:30. All right. Get off. Give me a peanut butter jelly sandwich. I'm at the gym.
Headed to the
gym.
Got to get these shots up.
Got to get the shots up. Again, we had a little weight program as well. And so I would be at and just grinding.
And so you said that agents approached you.
Yeah.
About, I forget the word you used, representing you for a pro career. They came to you. Did you do anything to make that happen in terms of sending film out to people, emailing, stuff like that?
Nah, man.
Not at all.
Nothing. And it would just be, just kind of just messages, right? Because I feel like if people want to get in contact with you, like they're going to be able to get in contact with you. And so whether it was through my coach or through like a mutual friend, just these reputable agencies were just reaching out. Hey, Javier, I just want to introduce myself. I'm such and such. I represent this firm. Would love to talk more about your professional career. Let me know when you got some time. Right. And so just a list of all of those messages, I come out of my senior year. I'm like, all right, man, out of the course of my senior year, I got about at least 15 of these boys that have reached out. All right. And so then it was just a process of kind of narrowing it down and trying to get to one that I felt the most comfortable with.
And how do you narrow it down? What's that process like?
Yeah, scary as hell. Cause you don't know, man. And so for me, it was a lot of phone conversations. It was a lot of, who do you represent? Right. So what's your current clientele look like? what's your history of representing players in the NBA? What sort of connects do you have overseas if that becomes an option? Because overseas, like there are different levels to overseas basketball, right? Like some leagues are legit, some are not legit.
That's something I really wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Is because people hear overseas and they think it's just this one thing, overseas basketball. But really, I've talked to people who they're making six figures. Everything's paid for, food, travel, all of that.
Yeah.
You're good. I've also heard stories of people who play overseas and it gets kind of sketchy, like they're not really handed their checks that they say that they're going to hand out. And it gets pretty sketchy. So that's definitely something I wanted to talk about.
So yeah, that's what the process looked like for me, is I'm trying to narrow down who do I want to represent me. Yeah.
And so from there, you said a list of like 15, 16 people.
Yeah.
You go through the vetting process.
Yep.
You find the best fit for you.
Yep.
You say, all right, you're my guy. Let's do business. Where do you go from there?
Yeah. And so from there, again, this is after my senior year. I signed my guy, Justin Haynes. Shout out, man. JH, if you ever hear this, that's my guy. He's still in the game today, man. And then from there, it was just a matter of just kind of gauging interest, whether that's NBA, whether that's overseas. And so now the ball's in his court. He's the one fighting for me. He's the one trying to place me into the best fit. And so from there, after my senior year, I had a pre-draft workout with the Celtics. And so that was incredible. And it had a little bit of NBA kind of interest. It was a little bit small, though. Mostly some East Coast teams, Knicks, Nets, Celtics, of course, because those were most of my games were, right on the East Coast. And so that's kind of where my interest generated for the most part. But yeah, man, ended up just going overseas. And so ended up having a deal. My first year, I was in Holland, the Netherlands. And so, yeah, man, that was my first year playing pro ball.
So you get there.
Yep.
They don't speak English.
They do.
They do.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Shout out to everybody in Holland, man. Treated me with love.
Nice.
Culture is very Americanized. And so even though it was overseas, it didn't feel like it was overseas.
Okay. So not too big of a culture shock, maybe a little bit.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Second year, that's a whole different story, but we'll talk about that a little on the back end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the pre-draft workouts.
Okay.
Real quick.
Yeah.
What did those look like? You get in there, it's you and like how many other people?
So I was in a group of, I believe, 6.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I got a random call. I told you, right? There's this growing theme of like, if people want to get in contact with you, they're going to get in contact with you. So I think it was one of the assistant coaches at the time. And this is when Brad Stevens was the head coach. Isaiah Thomas was there. It was that group of guys.
Okay. And
so I get a call. I was like, hey, Javier, this is Coach such and such with the Boston Celtics. We'd love to have you here for a pre-draft workout. They had a bunch of second-round picks that year. I think it was, 2015. Bunch of second-round picks. And so they were looking to fill that spot with a guard. They end up taking some dude, I forget his name. I thought I was better than him. But
how it goes usually.
Yeah, you know how it goes, But yeah, they really had a bunch of second-round picks. And so I was like, yo, this is dope. Just got a call from the Celtics. I didn't have a ride up there. So talked to coach. I was like, hey, coach, Celtics want me to come work out, but I ain't got a ride. He was like, I got you.
Your Yale coach?
Yeah, my Yale coach, man. Okay. Coach Jones, bro.
Shout out to him.
Shout out to him, man. He's the GOAT.
Yeah.
Longest tenure coach in the Ivy League, man. And so just me and him, man, we rode up there. He drove me up there. And it was about a group of 6. And we get there and they start taking your measurements, right? So, they do the pre-workout stuff, right? They take your measurements, wingspan, all of that stuff. And
they do hand size?
Yeah, hand size, all of that.
I've heard that's a big thing.
Yeah, all of that stuff. Vertical. And so every pre-draft workout, or typically teams do their pre-draft workouts differently. All right. And we've had a couple guys in the Yale system that have done pre-draft workouts with the Celtics. And one of the things that they were notorious for was it's a conditioning drill.
I was just talking about this with one of my guys the other day. You got like 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To see how many down and back sprints you can do.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember what you got?
I don't. I just remember like thinking about, and it's at the end of the workout too, right? And so that's how you know that the workout's about to come to an end when they say, all right, get on the baseline. It's the last thing you're about to do. And so, but no, it was smooth, man. I think I was a little bit nervous, of course, because of course you got like Brad Stevens right there kind of watching. Danny Ainge was there. I thought I played well, but it was overall a good experience, man. You know what I mean? Got some gear and you know what I mean? I still got the shirt today.
Yeah. Man. 6 people.
Yeah.
Spot up shots, 3v3. What are we doing?
So there, it's a lot of the drills are just general, so it's half court layups, all right, but you're trying to get there in like 2 dribbles, all right. So imagine starting at half court, pushing the ball out, trying to get there as quick as possible, under control, finishing, right. So with stuff like that, it's they're testing to see how well you move, how well you can like help on defense. And so one of the drills that I remember was the tag the roller drill. All right. So you got the roller that's rolling as that defender that's guarding that wing. Where you got to come over, you got to tag the big, bump him to make sure he doesn't get a clear lane to the basket. Then you got to go back and close out to your man, right? Make sure the shot doesn't get up, right? So it was that drill. They did a 1-on-2 full court drill, right? Couple transition drills as well. They did one drill where they drew up a mock play and you had to go out and run it, right? So really testing, all right, can you comprehend if there's a play being drawn? Can you go out and execute it? And then just some general shooting stuff too.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was 1 of 1 pre-draft workouts?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do that. You take the temperature of the room. Sounds like probably they're going a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, you start looking overseas.
Yeah.
We find that gig.
Yeah.
Take me through the process of just everything, bro. Like you arrive in, you said Netherlands.
Yeah.
Get there. Get off the plane.
Mm-hmm.
What's that like?
Head to practice.
Straight to practice. You're getting a paycheck now.
Drop your stuff off.
Yep.
Head to practice. A lot of teams, and it depends on what country you're in, but they have different import rules, right? It prevents it from being another NBA overseas. Because you got to think about it, the NBA, it's only 2 rounds, 60 guys. And you think about all the guys that are eligible to be drafted. And so what happens to those guys is that they look for jobs elsewhere. So it's a lot of guys, specifically Americans in the market when it comes to playing basketball overseas. And so what teams usually do is that they have import rules, because if I'm Dutch and I go to a Dutch basketball game, I'm more than likely going to be drawn to that game if I see some folk that look like me out there. Right. And so I think that's the reason why they do it. And plus to help grow the game in that particular country. Right. And so, yeah, man, I get overseas. They take us to the spot. I never forget, it was a guy from Penn that graduated the year before me. He played on the same team the year before. And so typically what teams do is that they'll have the same rental property for all of the imports every year. Right. And so I walk in, I'll never forget, man, Miles Jackson Cartwright. He had this big old bin full of like U.S. snacks, like all full of ramen noodles and just all stuff, bro. And I told him I was going over to the play, and he was like, bro, got you. So he sent me like a whole PDF documents of like what to do, what the city was going to be like. And so, yeah, man, I go in, I drop my stuff, and we head straight to practice.
Hey, you're getting a paycheck now.
I'm getting a paycheck now, man.
Business.
It's business.
It's your job.
It's my job, man.
It's got to feel good, though. You spent all your life pretty much. Yeah, all your life. you have school and basketball and balancing those two.
Yeah.
And now it's just hoops.
It's just hoops.
Is that luxury? Do you find yourself bored? What's that like?
Yeah, there's a lot of downtime for sure.
A lot of Netflix.
A lot of Netflix, a lot of MLB The Show. I was NBA 2K, a lot of gaming for sure. And I think a lot of guys can get in trouble if they don't spend that time outside of ball well. But no, man, I loved it. It was good. It was a good routine. Typically you'll wake up. The only thing I didn't like was games were only once a week. Right. Mm-hmm. So we only have like a Saturday game. And
like
so
the NFL.
Yeah. Sundays off. Okay. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you got either shooting in the morning or weightlifting in the morning, and you will have practice in the evening times. Right. And then you got to get ready for the game on Saturday. So that's the only part I didn't like. But as far as you know, that transition, it really forces you to take care of your investment. Right. You got to be smart with what you do outside of your time on the court. So making sure you get your rest, making sure you eat, making sure that you stretch, making sure that you get your treatment. My first year in Highland, we had access to sort of like a little club fitness thing, but they had a sauna.
Major keys. Ooh. Major keys.
Boy, when I tell you after every practice, sauna.
We in there.
Yeah, we in there.
10, 20 minutes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And so it forces you to take care of your investment.
Yeah. I could just imagine it just feels freeing almost because like you're getting paid to do all that stuff. Mm-hmm. That's got to feel incredible.
Yeah. You get paid to do what you love to do. Now, a little bit devil's advocate, there's also some pressure associated with it, right? When we talk about, you being an import, you're not coming over there to be a role player.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Now, again, some clubs you might be, but for the most part, like the imports are going to be your guys that are going to be the higher paid guys. And so these are going to be the dudes that are going to be expected to produce. Right.
Never thought about that.
Yeah. And so there's also that aspect of it. Mm-hmm. You're getting paid to do what you love to do, but we're signing you for a reason.
So it's very rare that a U.S. player coming overseas, it's very rare that he's going to be the glue guy, a role player.
And it depends, man. Probably some of those higher tier teams, those higher, leagues, they run it like the NBA over here, bro. You know what I'm saying? The NBA is like, you're going to have very few superstars, right? But a lot of NBA dudes, they're really good at their role. And that's okay. You know what I mean? But for the most part, man, if you an import, you don't have to produce. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So it was, I enjoyed being in that role. I feel like I excelled at it. Led the league in scoring my first year. A lot of highlights. A lot of big time moments, big time shots.
Lots of memories.
Yeah. Lots of memories.
So this question, your answer might vary depending on, because you played for 3 different teams, 3 different countries.
Yep.
You can talk about specific countries if you want, or just generally, how would you compare USA basketball to overseas basketball? Because I feel like we're the most athletic. We have the most wiggle, the most shiftiness. Mm-hmm. Generally, I feel like overseas is more system-oriented, team basketball.
Yeah. I would agree.
So you got over there, was it easy money? They don't have the shift like that. This is easy to guard. I got more shift than they're used to guarding, so it's just easy. Was there any type of learning curve? Because you're playing against older guys.
Yeah.
20s, 30s.
Mm-hmm. I would say I was always a high IQ guy, right? So
Yale education.
Yeah, Yale education, and I think it was just innate. Like I've always been able to. Maybe it's the point guard in me, right? To be able to see plays in advance. And I think about how I got a lot of my steals. I rarely got steals off on ball. A lot of it was just off ball, jumping passing lanes, being able to see how the defense has shifted, how the offense, and being able to pick on certain concepts. So I've always been a high IQ dude. And so when it comes to, when we talk about, that transition overseas, it wasn't so much from an IQ standpoint, more so from a physicality standpoint, right? Yeah, I would agree USA is a little bit more shifty. We're a little bit more athletic. But I believe Wemby just came out with a quote that said, yeah, the league I just played in is way more physical than the US, right? My second year I played in Hungary, probably the most physical league I've ever played in. Dude was big. Referees wasn't calling nothing. I'm already slight frame, right? And so like you talk about comparing USA to overseas, like, yeah, I would say we probably have the edge in athleticism, but I think the beautiful part about overseas basketball, especially when it's played at a high level, is that they make the right decision every time. So you like we wonder why like the US struggles as of late, like playing overseas, is because them dudes make the right decision every single time. Like they make the right read off the pick and roll every single time. That, and they've also been playing together since they were 14 years old.
And a lot of people, I think of Luka, been playing against grown men since he was 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Got to make a difference. Got to make a difference.
Huge difference. And I think that's why he's been able to adjust to the league as quick as he has, because of the experience that he had overseas.
He said scoring in the league was easier than it is overseas.
Man. Yeah, man.
I think that's the best way to get better at basketball is one, just playing, just doing the thing that you want to get better at, but then also playing against older people.
Yeah.
Grown men.
Yeah.
Catch a forearm in the rib cage.
With no foul.
No foul.
With no foul. And you got to run back on defense.
Got to run back on defense.
Yep.
Overseas basketball, man.
Yeah.
Overall, your thoughts. I'm guessing you're grateful for it. What like lessons would you say you learned? Because here's my thing is like going overseas and traveling has in the past like month has been put at the top of my bucket list. I think it's super cool being able to go to another country. I was talking to my homie the other day, like just the way they walk down the street is different. The way they move, the way they talk, their body language.
Yeah.
Everything is different. Are there any insights that you've gained just being out in the community overseas that you've taken with you?
Yeah. Be present. So think about my overseas, career. Yes, I'm grateful to have been able to get paid to do what I love to do. Great. The other part of that season that I enjoyed was the ability to connect with people in different ways of life, different ways of living. Right. And so I think a lot of guys, when they go overseas, they just go for the ball. They just go to hoop. Right? Without taking the time to get ingrained into the culture and see, hey, how do y'all live over here? Right? Like, what's y'all day-to-day like?
Maybe the way I've been doing it may not be the best way.
Right. May not be the best way. Yeah. Or it may be, something about your way of life that I could adopt to mine. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I think as I think about my time in Holland, my time in Hungary, my time in Finland, being able to take all of those different experiences from those cultures and learn from them, cherish them, and experience them was, man, incredible. And so I would just say, man, just be present. It's probably the biggest thing that I learned. Yeah, man.
I like that. So overseas basketball, there was a point where you decided to move on? Was that your decision? Was that someone else's decision? What all went into that process?
Oh yeah, that was God's decision.
Facts.
If I had it my way, man, I was slated to play one more year. It was God's decision all the way, and I didn't understand it until a little bit later. And so after my second year overseas, I had gotten engaged. Shout out to my lovely wife, Tyra. Love you, girl. It's my baby right there.
Shout
out. And I was sort of at a crossroads. I love playing ball. But one, I had got engaged, and I knew I wanted some stability.
Well, you were still hooping overseas.
So this was after my second year. I come back that April. So I come back from Finland, and it's just 2016. All right. No, this is 2017. 2017 April. All right. And typically your overseas contracts are only about a year. Sometimes they make some multi-year deals, but at least when I was playing, they were only 1 year. And you would figure out kind of what that next step was going to look like probably July, August. All right. For the most part, give or take. And so I get back April, I propose, boom, everything's great. Now I got some decisions to make. You know what I mean? My wife, she ain't the type that's going to pack up her bags, go overseas, and just twiddle her thumbs while I'm at practice all day. And I knew, right, I talk about that 8th grade project where I said I wanted to be a professional basketball player. Part 2 of that was that I said I wanted to be a good husband and a good father. And this is at the age of 13. Like, who talks about being a good husband and a good father, right?
Javier Duren.
Yeah, Javier Duren. There you go, right? And so my thought was, hey, let's maybe give it one more year, stack some bread, pay the wedding off, all right, and then just kind of see what's next. All right. So that was kind of my whole thinking kind of that summer. And so as that summer's going on, I'm working out with Fitz.
Shout out to Fitz. Big shout out. You know, he getting me right. And I still got my agent. I'm hitting him up, you know, every once in a while. Again, this is April, May, so I ain't tripping. You know what I mean? Nobody hear nothing until July, August, right? But then June starts to come. I'm like, all right. Nothing? Crickets? Okay, cool. You know, I'm still going to Fitz, you know, still working out, cool. July hits. Okay. Still nothing? All right. August hits. Yeah. So now cats are starting to report the training camp. Now cats are posting on social media, yo, man, blessed to, you know what I'm saying? My next year I'm going to be in Bulgaria. You know what I mean? I still got crickets. Nothing. Mind you, the first year led the league in scoring. Second year led my squad to the playoffs. First time in a few years. Right? So the credentials been there. Mm-hmm. All right. And we get to late August, September. I'm like, yo, I'm hitting my agent up. Like, yo, man, like, what's up? What's going on? And he was just as perplexed as I was. He was like, man, I got nothing. Like, I mean, I've been trying, but just got nothing. And so mind you, I ain't had a job since April. Savings accounts is dwindling. I'm stressing out because I don't got no plan. Because again, the whole thing was I got to go pay for this wedding, right? I got to stack the bread. This is my last hurrah. And nothing just came, man. And so, first of all, how long do you want to go for?
However you want to go for.
I want to be respectful of your time.
Nah, I'm good, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, you gotta.
No, I got curfew.
Okay.
No, we good. We good.
Make sure everyone's happy.
Yeah. No, you straight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where did the Lakeland Magic fall in your timeline?
Yeah. And so in the pursuit of not having any overseas offers,
okay,
I didn't shift in my attention domestically. And so I believe the G League draft was maybe that October. And so what teams typically did was that they would have these open tryouts, right? Like anybody could come to open tryouts. Like Grandpa Joe from the grocery store could come to the open tryout at the local YMCA, right?
I'll take your money.
Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so the plan was to go to a few open tryouts, see if I could get some traction, and potentially look to go G League. And so my first open tryout was in Austin, Texas.
And this is you, like, no communication with the agent, with the teams, with, like, this is you paying money to go try out, just like Joe from the grocery store.
Yeah, just like Joe from the grocery store. But I am in contact with my agent because, again, he still works for me. Right? Like, he still...
But just in terms of, like you're paying money. You know what I'm saying? Like, this isn't some, like, I got connections to get here, and, like, the coaches have been talking to me, and, like, it's kind of just a formality to try out, but really, like, they're interested, so I'm gonna be there. This is you, like, paying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Booking a flight to Austin, Texas. Austin Spurs got a tryout at Round Rock. I'm gonna be there. I got my, you know, when they had the runners, they got your numbers like number 10. I'm number 108. 108. Standing in line.
Got the little bobby pin.
Got the little bobby pins.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
And so that was my first one. And I think typically they took maybe, I don't know, one or two guys that they liked and added them to the team. And so, or looked to add them to the team. And so I went to the Austin Spurs. That was my first one. Then I went to Wisconsin Herd. So that's the G League affiliate of the Milwaukee Bucks. And so I went to that one, met Jason Kidd and chopped it up with him. Kendall Marshall, lefty from UNC. I think he was with the Bucks at that time. And so I got a chance to, like, pick his brain. And so, you know, I'm playing well. I feel like I'm getting positive feedback. And it gets time for the G League draft. The G League draft was on Twitter. I'm not sure how it is now, but it was just on. So you just following Twitter.
They just, like, were tweeting.
Yeah, they were just tweeting out the picks.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll never forget it, man. I took a screenshot. Lakeland Magic, select Javier Duren, guard from Yale.
Nice.
And so I'm like, dope. We back. Lakeland Magic on stateside. You know what I mean? It was a good feeling, man. And so I get drafted by the Magic. I get a call from the coach. And he's like, hey, Javier, just want you to know we just drafted you. You know, we got big plans for you. You know, our point guard position is kind of up in the air right now. So it's a really good opportunity, you know, for you to slide in and, you know, really contribute. It's like, oh, great, bet. Let's get it. So, yeah, man, that was Lakeland Magic.
And so from there, same as overseas, as hopping off the plane, get off that phone call and work straight to work. When's the soonest you can get over here? What's that like?
Yeah, and so it was 2 weeks before the first game. They usually have like a little training camp. All right. Now, training camp, they don't got the final roster. The final roster is 12. Well, they usually bring in about 20 cats to training camp.
Okay.
Maybe 25.
Cutthroat.
Yeah.
Because that's people, again, you're getting paid to do it. It's not just some AAU tryout. This is, I'm trying to put, in your case, I'm trying to put food on the table. I have a family to feed. This is business. We're here to work.
Business, we're here to work.
Yes.
And so from the Lakeland Magic draft, I enter training camp. I think I fly down maybe a couple days, do some preliminary blood work and stuff, sign a contract, of course. And then we get to work, man. And honestly, looking back, probably the hardest training camp, hardest days of practice I've ever had in my life.
2 days?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think the one of those days was a 2-a-day. The others were just one practice. I think we went for about 3.5 hours, something like that. 3.5 hours, maybe. Couldn't feel my legs.
Lots of sprints.
It's sprints. It's fast pace.
Getting up and down.
Yeah, getting up and down. And again, these are high level dudes, right? And so, like, you got a guard, right?
No plays off.
No plays off. Plus, it's training camp. So you got to try to get as many reps as you can.
Yeah. Can't get lost in the shuffle.
Can't get lost in the shuffle. So it's a grind, bro. It's a grind, man.
So you said 3 days of training camp?
So it was Monday, about a week. About a week of training camp.
Okay.
And then we had a game. I believe it was against Canton, which is the Cleveland Cavaliers G League squad. Had a game against Canton. All right. And so kind of that week, kind of the way that I would describe it for me is it was intense. And I felt like I got lost in the shuffle a little bit. For me, right, being, they had some other smaller guards, and I think in hindsight, I would have took more ownership of playing that point guard role, because that was who I naturally was, instead of just being like, all right, you just take the one, I'll just take the two. Like, nah, fam, like, I'm trying to get a job. I don't care where you came from. I don't care how tall you are. It ain't my fault that you 5'10". Go ahead and get on this wing, right? And so kind of got lost in the shuffle. And so after that Canton game, I didn't get too much playing time. And sort of the writing was on the wall. After that, they bring us in the locker room, and it was like, hey, man, y'all, you, and y'all come over here. And so we walk over there, and you got the whole coaching staff there, and they're like, hey, we just want to say thank y'all, but, we'll be no longer needing y'all services. Boom.
Like that.
Cut from training camp. Hector got your flights. Y'all head out in the morning.
Cutthroat.
It's
a business.
It's a business. It's a business, man. And so, yeah, that was Lakeland Magic. So, flew home the next day. Of course, I had to give me some gear. I was like, hey, yo, Hector, man, while I'm here, y'all ain't gonna need this long sleeve back, right? Y'all ain't gonna need this back. Still got some today.
There we go.
Still got the socks.
Mm-hmm.
Most comfortable socks I ever worn in my life. Them boys live lavish.
Yes. Even in the G League.
Even in the G League. Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. But hopped on a flight, came back home, back at square one.
Square one is it's time to, you're done hooping. That's it.
Nah, man. Square one is figuring out what does hooping look like.
Okay.
I'm still trying to hoop.
Gotcha.
Again, this is October. And so at this point in time, you starting the first week of the season, like overseas, right? Season's starting to start a little bit. And so I'm still trying to figure out what that looks like. I'm still trying to figure out what the G League looks like. After Lakeland, I came home, got in contact with the Thunder affiliate out of OKC. Their coach right now, Coach Daniel, he's the head coach there, but he was the coach of the G League team there. And got in contact with him, and he was like, hey, man, we'd love to fly you out. We don't have a spot now, but what we like to do is, as guys are moving up and down and changing teams, we like to have a list of guys that we've already vetted because we care about who we bring into our organization, and so we just want to bring you in, And
like a practice player?
Yeah, so like a practice player. And so I went in, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 days that I stayed there and just practiced with them and talk about, again, living lavish, boy. Them omelets and gear was training staff. Oh my gosh.
Massage people and cupping and
boy.
Protein shake after
I
your
say
workout.
y'all got it made.
Even in the G League.
Oh, it was beautiful, man. But again, nothing materialized from that. Went up there, killed it. Came back home. Now I'm stressing.
Yep.
Late October. Bank account, damn near empty. Got a wedding coming up. And probably one of the lowest points of my life. Right? As you talk about, you asked me the question, stepping away from ball, was it your decision or was it guys? Well, my decision for sure. right? It was guys, man. And it just so happens, right? Just so happens. So after that happens, as I'm thinking about basketball, I'm like, all right, man, it's October. Maybe I can hold out for a couple more months. I know guys typically get cut around Christmas. So maybe it's a shot for me to come back around January and fill out some spots. Again, man, trying to still keep this hoop dream alive. And my wife was working with the St. Louis Cardinals at the time. And they had a fellowship position open. And a fellowship position was you come in, you learn everything about baseball operations. You got the baseball side of baseball and you got the business side. And so baseball side deals with everything with the product on the field. So your general managers, your scouting, your analytics, right? So just learn all about baseball operations. You don't need to have any baseball experience, but they were specifically looking for somebody with an economics degree, somebody who was good with numbers. And so my wife passes it along and she's like, hey, sweetheart, like they're looking for this. What do you think? And it was at that moment then where I realized the reason why those basketball doors were closing.
It's because a new one was opening. So that offer was presented and you knew that this is the direction I need to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, God couldn't have made it even because that was the only door that was open. And it was almost as if like God was saying, no, I couldn't have you overseas. Like I needed you here in the States in late October, in late November. So when that offer came, you could accept it and walk into what I have for you next after basketball.
I like that a lot. Because when you were talking about the G League,
yeah.
Before that, you were talking about overseas and how you wanted to be a good husband too.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking, well, G League is perfect because you get a chance to, you're in the States doing what you love. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. And I'm glad you brought that up because it shows that like we have this vision of how we think something's supposed to work out. And in our minds, like logically, it makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. I get to hoop and I get to be in the States and be with the family and it makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. But then I like that you brought that up because it just shows like we don't know.
We don't know, man. I was having a conversation with a kid last night, man. And, he has this goal in mind and he's 21 and he made the statement, man, I'm just trying to control everything.
That's when he's like, shit, you got it?
Yeah, man.
Go ahead.
And it damn near broke my heart because like we don't control nothing, man. There is not a single ounce of our life that we have. The only thing that we have control over is how we react to what happens in our lives.
That's a bar.
The perspective. That's the only thing we have control over. As I talk about my journey, right, from Yale to overseas to G League to the Cardinals, I had no control over that. Right? And so I think when we talk about control, man, the quicker you realize in life that you don't have control, the better off you're going to be.
Facts. The better it works out too.
The better it works out, man.
Because there's so many things in my life and in your life, I'm guessing that like it falls into your lap.
Yeah.
And it just happens.
Bro, I remember it clear as day. I'm sitting on my bed, laptop open. I don't even know what was showing on the screen. I just remember I'm at my mom's house in my room and Tyra forwards me the email with the position. And in that moment, again, I told you it's one of the darkest moments of my life. All of the anguish and the uncertainty, and it just went away because it clicked. And so the scary part, right? We talk about control. The scary part about, and I think why we want control is that we want to be able to control the outcomes of situations, right? But the issue is that our outcomes will never be as good as God outcomes.
I look at it as like if you're looking through like a little paper towel tube thing, like you see life here.
Yeah.
And then, okay, like here are my possibilities and my options.
Mm-hmm.
But then he's looking at it out here. So it could be something greater than you could even comprehend.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
It's fire.
Yeah. And as I think back again to that time, the only thing I can say is appreciate it, God.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, appreciate it.
Yep. That's what I found.
Yeah, man.
With doing all this stuff is like, I don't feel like I'm doing anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like a job. I just like even to go out and do this stuff, training, podcasting, all of it. It's not like I just sit back and listen, bro.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
Just out here.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, man.
I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Get the gig with the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And you're still there.
I am. Season number 6 for me.
Number 6. So if anyone listening,
man,
is disappointed with the season that happened, this is the man right here.
Far from it.
314-26.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So you do the business side of or no, you're in charge of the product on the field.
Yeah, man.
Okay. So talk a little bit about your role, what you do, how that role has changed over the years.
Yeah, for sure. So when you think about baseball, it's sort of two-sided. You got your business side. So this is your accounting, your ticket sales, your stadium operations, similar positions that you may see across the same sort of businesses, right? Then you got your baseball side, because baseball has a team and you got to have people who are in charge of fielding the team and fielding the players and the coaches and stuff like that, and making player evaluation decisions on who we bring into the organization for performance standards and things like that. And so that's the side that I work on. And so my official title is Manager of Video Operations. And so basically what that means is kind of twofold. From a scouting perspective, whenever we're looking to acquire players, whether it's free agency, draft, trade, making sure that we have video of their performances to go along with all the other data that we bring in, whether that's analytics, whether that's medical grades, to help our decision makers make the best choice on whether to acquire this player or not. So case in point, we just finished up the MLB draft. And so a lot of my work was involved in the guys that we're thinking about drafting, the guys that we're thinking about bringing into our organization. Can we have video of their performances? Like, can we see them on video? Can we see them throwing a pitch? Can we see them hitting the ball? Can we actually put eyes on them just to get a glimpse of what this player could potentially be if we decide to have them into our organization? And then the flip side is the player development side. And so once we do acquire said player, that player goes out, he plays a game in the minor leagues, making sure that his video from his game gets into our internal system so he can view it as soon as possible. So John Doe plays his game on Tuesday night, goes to sleep, wakes up in the morning, gets his peanut butter jelly sandwich. I like peanut butter jelly sandwiches.
Second time.
Big plug. Gets his Uncrustable before he goes to the stadium. He's able to look at his phone into our internal app. He can see all of his plate appearances, all of his at-bats, all of the game video from that previous night. And so that's my job. I run a team of about 5 to 7 just to make sure all of those video processes are running smooth.
A lot of numbers, analytics. Not so much.
Nah, not too much.
Okay.
Not too much, man. My job is more so providing the data, specifically the video data. And then I'll let the coaches and who's ever looking at the video data decide how they want to do it, what they want to do with it. So again, my job is to make sure that it's there for consumption. So if it's not there, then that falls on me. It's a lot of troubleshooting. It's a lot of trying to get that video in as soon as possible. And so as you talk about how my role has changed over the years, probably the desire for video has increased exponentially. It's not just the top level employees that want it. It's not just the general manager or the hitting coach that wants it. Not a player wants it, right? Not only that, but the player wants it next day. And so how do we build an infrastructure and how do we support all the desires of video in a way that kind of satisfies everybody as best as possible? So those are the kind of questions that I'm asking.
So we are clipping together highlights of players?
Not so much highlights. And so if a player plays a game, okay, I got to figure out, is this game accessible via video? Is it being recorded somewhere? Is ESPN tracking it? Or
so is that you making phone calls?
Yeah, or just doing Google searches or just seeing, hey man, if you play at LSU, all right, LSU, y'all got a game on Friday. Is it going to be televised?
Gotcha.
Right. So it's one, getting the video data for it. Two, it's figuring out, okay, now that we got the video for it, are we going to have the ball tracking data for it? All right. So when we say ball tracking data, there are different companies and vendors that provide analytical data for the ball and track it. So for instance, if a pitch is being thrown, this particular vendor or company will say, hey, this pitch was this fast. It was this sort of pitch. So it was 96 mile an hour. It was a sinker and it was a strike. Right. And so my job is to make sure that we compare the video that we have with that data that we also bring in. We clip it together, put it on an internal system. That way it can be viewed by whoever needs to see it. And so when I go into my internal system, I go to last night's game. Not only do I have the video of that particular at bat, but I also have the pitch data and the batted ball data to go along with it.
Are there certain players, you don't have to name drop, but like that, because I'm just thinking, because it's relevant to basketball too, like the eye test versus the numbers. Mm-hmm. Have there been players that don't pass one or the other, but pass the other one? I feel like it might be different with baseball.
Yeah.
Because baseball isn't like, because it's super interesting to me, because baseball, they're not, with a couple exceptions, they're not athletic specimens.
Sneakily, they are.
Okay.
You just don't get an opportunity to see it as often as other sports.
That's a good point.
So there are some athletic, I don't even know if that's a word, athletical elements to the game of baseball. We're going to roll with it. But again, you just don't. Yale education. There's some athletical elements to it. You just don't see it as often. But I mean,
that's a good point.
Yeah, man, we got some guys on our team that are super athletic. But you asked, are there some guys that maybe pass the eye test, maybe not the analytical test, and vice versa? Yeah, I'm sure there are. And I think the difference between baseball is that it's probably the most analytically driven sport. So what does that mean? That means that typically when we talk about player acquisition and evaluation process, analytics does play a hand in making those decisions and helping to decide if a player, even if a player passes the eye test, does he pass the analytical test? So
nice.
I hope that answered your question.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. This is what you enjoy doing?
What I enjoy doing?
It pays the bills.
It's a good question, man. So as I think about my journey, I think it's been it served me well for sure. Right? It allowed me to have that stability. It allowed me to grow. Right? First starting off, it allowed me to kind of settle down and provided a real smooth transition. Away from the game of basketball into quote unquote, corporate life for sure. I definitely enjoy working for the hometown team, right? Because it don't matter if you are a basketball player or if you're a janitor at the local elementary school, everybody's a Cardinals fan.
Facts.
Right. And so being able to have that as part of my brand is something I definitely enjoy as well. But yeah, man, just still trying to figure out kind of what that growth looks like from here.
So that's going to be my next question. Talk about that growth.
Yeah.
What's the plan moving forward? You're training now.
Yeah, man.
You're doing your thing.
Yeah.
What's the plan with that in general? You got family, wife, like what's the plan moving forward?
Yeah, for sure, man. Shout out to Total Pack TC, man. A brainchild of mine that I started during the pandemic just because some close friend wanted me to start training this kid, and I started doing it, and I found fulfillment in it.
Yep.
And now it's been amazing. And so I'm definitely proud of that growth. And one, for me, just being able to step out, take a risk, and yeah, man, be courageous. It's one thing to play the game, but it's another thing to teach it. It takes a different level of patience and a different level of teaching.
Being able to communicate.
Yeah, and a different level of communication.
Lots of psychology.
Yeah.
Understanding people.
Yeah.
It's a lot more complicated than it may seem.
It is. Mm-hmm. It is. And I think the people that do it well are the people that are okay with process.
Yes.
And many people, we live in a microwave society, bro. 20 seconds or less.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so I think that's why I love it. I just enjoy the process. Yeah. And so talking about going from here, that's a good question, man. So I'm still trying to figure out. I think I'm at a point now. I just turned 30 on July 1st.
Happy birthday.
Appreciate it, man.
So July 1st?
Yeah.
I'm July 2nd.
Hey, let's get it.
Cancer.
Let's go.
Cancer.
My boy, man. But yeah, man, just still trying to figure out, man, where can I provide the most value for what Javier Duren brings to the table? Yeah.
I was interested to hear your answer on that because there's always this question about like, what goals do you have?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see yourself in 10, 15 years? And I've always been like, I don't have goals, I guess. I don't know. Like, I want to go, I said going overseas is on the bucket list, and, you know, there's some cool things I want to experience. But as far as goals, like with Grounded Hoops and podcasting and all of that, like my whole thing is like just putting one foot in front of the other. And like we talked about, like can't really control much, you know? So I feel like I was interested to get your answer on that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you just put one foot in front of the other to the best of your ability with love in your heart.
Yeah.
And everything just works out.
I wish it was that easy. So, and the reason why I say that is my 30 years on earth, I've learned that there is a place for vision and really trying to map out where you want to be and what you want to achieve. Right. And so even with Grounded Hoops, which is dope. Shout out to Grounded Hoops, man. I love what you're doing, man.
Appreciate you.
I know you've got like some vision, right, that you want for Grounded Hoops.
For sure.
Right? Which is what we're doing right now.
Yes.
Right? We talked about that prior to this. Like, as you're thinking about Grounded Hoops, like, yeah, this is dope. Like, what's the next level? Right? And so I think there's always that aspect when it comes to life. Like, what's that next level? And specifically me being a married man, like that's key to my marriage. You know, my wife, she's a visionary by trade. Like she's a planner, right? And so my job for my marriage is to build a vision for where we're trying to go. Mm-hmm. What are we standing for? Who we trying to be? How long is it going to take for us to get there? Right? Now, with that caveat, right, we talk about vision. There's one of my favorite scriptures, man. I can't think of it right now, but it's in Proverbs. It talks about how man will establish a plan, but the Lord would order their steps. Right? Hope I don't butcher that. Man will establish their plan, but the Lord would order their steps. All right. Many people go wrong with vision because if the vision doesn't come into fulfillment, they believe that they're a failure. And what I've realized is that it's okay to have vision. It's okay if you submit this plan to God and say, all right, God, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I want to do in 5 years. It's okay to follow that plan. As a matter of fact, I'll take it one step further. God is okay with you submitting that plan if you're okay with him ripping it up.
So the way you say it, it sounds more so like getting his thoughts on it. What do you think about it?
Yeah. God, I want to play basketball next year. You know, I ain't got no offers right now, but I'm still, you know, this is my plan. This is what I'm doing. I'm still working out. I'm still training. This is what I want to do, right? I still have vision for what I want in my career to look like. I submitted that to him and he said, nah, I don't like that one. Right? Like literally, like that's what he did, right? Mm-hmm. And here's the beautiful part about it is that whenever he rips up a plan, it's because he has something better. Major key of life.
Yes.
Major key of life. And so I think it's definitely safer to walk through life and just say, hey man, I'm just take it day by day and just kind of see kind of what happens. You know what I mean? And I think if we adapt that mindset, we'll never have the impact that we're supposed to have.
And I think that's a good point you brought up about your wife and for you having that vision of where we're going.
Yeah.
Because that's something I didn't really think about until now. Like if you're married to somebody, where are we going? You know what I'm saying? Like, where are we going? I can't just make it up as I go and I will figure it out. It'll be fine. Nope.
Her life is entrusted to mine.
Yep.
She has, when the day she said I do, she says, Javier Duren, I trust you with my life. In return, I cannot say, well, babe, I mean, we just, you know.
See where the wind takes us.
We'll see where the wind takes us. You know what I mean? We just skip together in lilies and feel the daisies and just see where we end up in 20 years. I might cut it with some folk, but that ain't gonna cut it with my wife, right? And I think as men, I think we're built for that. We're built for vision.
Yes,
right. We're built to, we're built to conquer, right?
Built to go out in the world.
Yeah, go out, make impact, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't want people to be discouraged that when the impact doesn't look like they initially wanted it to look like, that they consider it a failure. God has something different. God has something better for you. Again, that's just been my story.
I read something that says something along the lines of like, you have no idea what mistakes you avoided. Another bar. Another bar. Yeah.
That's tough.
You have no idea, like you have this plan and you have this goal and it didn't work out. But by it not working out, you have no idea what mistakes you avoided.
You don't.
Yeah.
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 That's good, man.
Married for 4 years?
5 years, man. July 21st.
July 21st.
Yes, sir.
July.
Birthday.
Anniversary.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
5 years going strong.
Yeah, man.
5 years going strong. What has made it work?
What has made it work? It's funny, man. I talked to my mentor, and you know, I asked him the same question because he's going on almost 30 years, man. And the one word that he gave, what made his marriage work, and I believe is what makes mine work, is sacrifice. And we talked about it a little bit, man, but I think a lot of people don't realize how serious marriage is. Like, people think about the wedding, this joyous occasion. Don't get me wrong, it is. But if you think about it from a longevity standpoint and what it really takes to make a marriage work, you are walking down that altar to die. It ain't a moment for you to live. You are going to die. That's what you walking down that altar to do, right? You dying to your pride. You dying to your selfishness. You dying to all that for the sake of the marriage and a covenant that you have before God. And so when we talk about kind of what's made it work, man, it's just sacrifice, man. Never forget, man, my, again, shout out to my mentor, FD, Focus Dimensions. He gave me one piece of advice before I got married. He said, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? I'll never forget that. And that has helped me so many times in such circumstances and situations in my marriage where I wanted to be right.
Gotta pick your battles. Is it worth it?
Is it worth it? Mm-hmm. Is it worth my happiness? Is it worth my peace? Because when I come home, man, like that's ground zero. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man, I think that's the topic that, man, we could talk for hours, man, but sacrifice for sure, man. And yeah. Dying to yourself.
Was that probably took time?
What?
To adjust?
Yes.
To that sacrifice?
5 years and counting.
Going on 6.
5 years and counting, man. Mm-hmm. Going on 6. It's an everyday thing, man. Like, you don't just die the day of your wedding, man. You die every single day.
And I think that's powerful, is that, like, we talked about the process with training.
Yeah.
It's a process with marriage.
Process with marriage. Yeah. Like,
every day is not going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's how you handle it.
Mm-hmm.
How you handle the conflict.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when the true colors show. And we were talking before we hopped on here about what do you call it? Premarital
counseling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uncovering everything.
Yeah. Uncovering everything, man.
That's important.
It is, man. And again, marriage is a process. You mentioned conflict, bro. I think about how I handle conflict year 1 of my marriage versus year 5.
Night and day.
Oh my gosh, bro. If my wife is listening to this, I know she's clapping right now like, yes, he's just so much better. Oh my goodness. I couldn't stand him year 1. Right. But a lot of it, man, was I didn't do yelling well.
You yelling or being yelled at?
Being yelled at.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think my parents got divorced when I was younger. I don't remember a lot about the marriage, but I know there was a lot of yelling and stuff like that. And so I think that kind of like put something in me to where I would like always cram up whenever I heard yelling. And so when it came to my coaches and my coaches would yell at me, I would always clam up. And I think that's why I had a really good career at Yale, because Coach Jones noticed that every time he yelled at me, I would always clam up. So he had to give me feedback differently than the other players, right? And so when I would get yelled at, I would always clam up and I would always ignore, right? Man, forget you, man. That don't work in marriage.
Nope.
Right? Anytime you ain't talking is bad, right? And so I had to really learn like how to deal with like conflict and like not only being yelled at, but being able to pick apart the words that are coming in and being able to, okay, throw that one away. Oh, okay, throw that one away. Okay, that's the issue right there. That's a lot of emotional intelligence. That's a lot of emotional IQ that a lot of people don't want to take the time to invest in.
Microwave society.
Microwave society. It's a process, man. 5 years and counting, man. Love my wife. Nothing I do for her.
I like that.
Nothing I wouldn't do for her.
I think that's a beautiful way to end. I think we've gone through your entire life
Yeah.
in an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, man.
On the dot. On the dot.
On the dot.
Hav, I appreciate you being here, bro.
Nah, I appreciate you, man. Like I said, I'm grateful to be able to support you, man. Episode 1, I hope I did it justice. I'm excited for what this is going to do for not only you, man, but Grounded Hoops, man. And just keep going, man. Proud of you.
Appreciate you, bro. You were part of the foundation.
Yeah.
Part of the foundation, a mentor from a pretty early age in my life. So I appreciate everything you're doing.
Yeah.
Continue to do. Nothing but love, man.
Hey, appreciate you, bro.
Yes, sir.
All right, man.
Episode 1 in the books.
Let's go.